Midlife isn't a crisis. It is a crossroads. But you know what isn't talked about most of the time is the emotional weight, the brain fog, the anxiety, even depression that a lot of women experience at this time of their life. But even worse, most women suffer silently during this phase in their life. And today, we're breaking that silence. So let me share a personal example with you. Before menopause, so in my 30s, 40s, I would react emotionally to something, but it felt normal in response to the thing that was happening. In my 50s, when I started to really experience the physical symptoms of menopause, I also noticed a rise in my level of irritability, in my level of resilience to handle emotional, irritable things in my life. And if I wouldn't express myself, I would build up a level of resentment and anger that would brew inside of me. The thing is, my expression was filled with heat and sharpness, and it felt like it was coming out of nowhere, like I became someone who I didn't even recognize. And I think this is common for a lot of women. I know this is common for a lot of women at this stage in their life. So many women in perimenopause, which is the time or the period of time before menopause, women are still menstruating, and typically this can surprise some women as to when this happens, but it can often happen in our early 40s. We experience symptoms like anxiety, depression, panic disorders, irritability, mood swings, difficulty sleeping, or we awaken earlier than usual. Did I mention brain fog or memory changes? Thinning of our hair, and one of the best parts is we get to wear glasses. I, in fact, love this because the style of glasses or readers these days is incredible. So today we are going to talk about what you might be feeling at this stage in your life, or maybe you're starting to experience these things and you don't really quite know what it is or what it means. What is really going on? So we're going to talk a little bit about hormones and more, and then what you can do about it. Many women in their 40s, that perimenopausal stage, and again, I just want to make really clear that this happens at different ages for most women. We don't all experience the same thing at the same age, which may be very clear, but just to be clearer, I'm going to say that. Report things like they feel a lot more anxious than they used to, and they can't really explain why, which is very similar to the reaction or to the story I shared with you earlier. They feel flat, like their emotions just don't feel like theirs. Feel exhausted and they can't sleep. They forget simple things. And worst of all, they begin to feel sort of numb. They often go into a place of hiding these numbing emotions, and they feel like they're watching their life, not living it. So for some women, this is very new. They're very surprised by these emotions. And this is a picture of me. I didn't feel a lot of anxiety, but I was surprised at how early I felt some of these symptoms. You feel like you're watching your life like a movie, like it's not really you in it. These emotions sort of sneak up on you and they surprise you. So I have a background as an RN, and no, I wasn't in obstetrics. I was in adult ICU and a lot of trauma. So a lot of this, of course, we talked about in school, but I certainly have an understanding of what is happening physiologically based on my background in medicine. So here's a little bit of a physiological explanation that I think is important to know, yet I wouldn't put all my eggs in this basket for sure. So I knew this, but I also was very aware that we'll get to that part. So it is well documented in the studies that these are very common feelings for women at this stage in their life. And if you've previously been in therapy or on medications for like depression or anxiety, these symptoms, mostly the emotional and mental symptoms, often become exaggerated at this time in your life. Isn't that good news, right? So even though you have been going through that process in your life of maybe therapy or medications, you may feel an exasperation or an increase in these symptoms during this time in your life, which I think is a really important point to remember when I get to the middle of this video. So stay with me because it's going to get really juicy. So physiologically, here's what is happening in the body. We all know that during menopause or perimenopause, there begins to be changes in our level of estrogen and progesterone. I want to speak specifically to estrogen and the powerful hormone that is in our bodies. So we know that this hormone is throughout in our entire body. It doesn't just live in our ovaries, it is all over, including our brain. So when this hormone starts to decrease, so do the levels of serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. And these are the hormones that sort of regulate our emotions and our mental capacity. There's also documentation that we experience some neuroinflammation. And this is all a very natural, normal process that we're going through. The neuroinflammation has been contributed to the increase in anxiety, depression, irritability because of the inflammation. I mean, that sort of makes sense, right? But here's the good news. This is not permanent. And you, as a powerful being, powerful woman, you have the capacity to do something about this in multiple ways. Like, you have a lot of choices, and we're going to get into them towards the end of this video. But first, before we talk about some of the interventions, I just really want to put a strong plug for our inner world and what is going on inside us. There is pharmacological intervention that we can seek, but this is a big but for me, and I see this so much. This is a time in our life that our soul is knocking on our door. This is a shift from one phase in your life to the next. Ayurveda medicine speaks about this as stepping into another primary dosha called the Vata season, which is very airy, very floaty, not consistent. There's lots of movement. Our bones become a little bit more frail. We become a little drier. Our body becomes drier. And I've talked about that in some of my other previous videos and some things that you can do about that. So we have a lot of options above and beyond pharmaceutical intervention. So if you are feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and your life feels a little chaotic, and it feels like it's exaggerated now in the current times that we're living in, I think that's a worthy thing to recognize within ourselves. But in addition to that, it creates a level of fear in us that exaggerates the stories we tell ourselves, exaggerates the overwhelm. It exaggerates the fear. Did I say that? But what I really want to emphasize is that we are not helpless. We are not a victim to this time in our life, but we are being called to make change. Our inner world is asking us to look within, to question our deeper stories, to question how we take care of ourselves or how much we give to others, which is a very matriarchal thing to do. And I am all for that. But when it's at your expense, especially at this time in your life, and you're still unwilling to create boundaries or say no, even when you're exhausted, overwhelmed, and in a state of chaos, that begins a stage of not greater health, but it starts to creep up on some of the very modern common diseases that women in menopause start to experience. And you know what I really get excited about, because this is probably the primary group of women that I work with, are those who have begun to understand that their roles, their responsibilities, and who they are, their identity at this point in their life changes. And they welcome it and they're ready to step into this phase in life. So I get it. I get it. I resisted it too. But when I stopped the resistance of aging, I stopped resisting this next phase in my life, and I started to let go of the stories, society's expectations, the formal roles I was playing. Now, none of this means I don't care about family or others. Absolutely not. In fact, my relationships have improved drastically when I started to be more of a stand for myself. And I started to care for myself or put myself first, because I still have and have more time for others because of that. So there is a slow unraveling of our roles, our expectations, and of course, our identity at this time in our life. So if you have spent years supporting others and holding it all together, which we are so good at, and you may be silently wondering these things, but I want to ask you these 3 questions. They are signals, they are invitations for you to listen to your soul. Okay, so we're about to talk about what we can do about it. What are the things that we as women can control about, or can control in this time in our life? What steps can we take? What actions do we have control over? But first, before I get into that, I want to talk about a very important thing that I think is very worthy of mentioning. And I know this so well until I undid it. So I call this physical reality distortion. It's also the same thing as gaslighting. I just give it a different term, but typically they're the same thing. So this time in our life is often dismissed by medicine, society, and us women alone. We brush off the symptoms. We stand beside the water cooler and make fun of what we're experiencing. And yes, it can be fun. But when we do it from this state of victimhood, I get slightly irritated by that, because if I have not learned anything at this stage of my life, that is to value who I am. What am I experiencing? And is it true? Is it real? And so often it just gets brushed off and not recognized and not managed. And that feels a little contorted to even say managed, to be to really embed ourselves, to really enjoy the process, to really take action during this time in our life instead of feeling like there's nothing I can do. This is the way it is, and to hide from it. I'm filming this on a really hot day. There is a nice breeze, but I decided to come here in the shade. So let's talk about number one, and that is considering hormone replacement. So this can have a really profound effect on our estrogen. And there used to be a lot of scare around hormone replacement because of the increased risk of breast cancer. Now that has changed a little bit, but I considered it only briefly, and I just decided I just didn't want to put that in my body, and I was willing to like experience this normal process going on in me. It did, however, mean that I needed to make a lot of changes in my life in other areas for me to manage the huge fluctuations. So it's an option, but please do your research. Please talk to your physician or several before you consider taking it. And some women, once they go on it, they feel better and they are on it the rest of their life. I don't know, there may be, of a lot of studies out there that have followed women long term on hormone replacement therapy. So do your research. All right, so that's number one. Number two is my second favorite, and that is nutrition. So nutrition becomes a vital part of our life in midlife. So there are three, you could even say four pillars in life that we must pay attention to, or they will knock us on our butt. One is our health, and nutrition falls into that. Two are our finances. Three is meaning in life. And okay, so now that I'm saying this, I am gapping out on number four. I will get back to that. So let's just go back to nutrition for now. Oh, relationships. That's number four. Sorry about that. Okay, so these are the four pillars in life that I think, no, I know if we don't pay attention to, they will pay attention to us and they will keep knocking on our door until we do. So nutrition falls into the health category. So nutrition, why is it my favorite? When I was young in high school, I was very active. I played sports, but my favorite thing was to run. So I joined track and ran. But even at that age, diet was absolutely huge. So I started to teach myself everything I could to just perform at the best that I could. And of course, at that stage in my life, I did it because I didn't want to gain weight. It's very common for young teenage women to not eat because they don't want to gain weight because of all of the societal issues wrapped around that. So anyway, I've continued my studies in nutrition since, but now they've had to shift. So when I was in my mid-20s, I became a vegetarian, and my diet increased substantially in fruits, but mostly vegetables. And then, of course, nuts and seeds and grains, all of those things. So I have looked at all of those for many years and incorporated them into my life and have always had a very stable weight. If I gained weight, all I had to do was blink my eyes, run an extra mile, and I was able to lose weight. And then I hit menopause. And it wasn't until my late 50s that I started to gain a little weight that I really struggled with at first. And then until I started to embrace it and just decide that I am just going to treat myself with the best nutrition I could. So that meant an anti-inflammatory diet was absolutely huge. I don't include fish oil in my diet, but I do take algae-based oil, which is comparable to fish oil. I eat a lot of anti-inflammatory foods because I think it's really important. If you recall earlier, I talked about neuroinflammation. I also do occasional intermittent fasting. So that means I eat in the morning when I get up because I'm always starved in the morning, and have realized that if I don't eat till mid-morning, my day does not go well. So I start with early morning breakfast, and then I eat for the 8 hours, and then I stop for 12 hours. That is my intermittent fasting, and that is all this girl can do. So Ayurvedically, I have a high Vata constitution, which means I'm in the Vata phase of my life. That means that we're more airy. We have dry tissues. We have more brittle bones. We have more brittle hair. So if we don't have the capacity or the resilience often to not eat or to go on a substantially low calorie diet, it just doesn't work for me. But intermittent fasting works very well for me. So those are some things I do. And then of course, what I eat, I think, is fabulously tasty. And when I've done my retreats, where I've cooked at my retreats, after every retreat, everybody wants all the recipes. So I sort of pride myself on that part of my life. So the next one is sleep. A lot of women experience, mostly in menopause, some in perimenopause, night sweats, disruptive sleep, maybe waking up really early and not being able to get back to sleep. So pretty common. Most of us know the things that we can do to prepare ourselves for sleep. I cannot emphasize that enough at this stage in your life. I have several practices that I do every night, and then I do some additional ones during the week. I oil my body, I take Epsom salt, ginger, rosemary, rose petal baths, and some other things I do that I've shared in some other videos. But I would love to make a whole video just on sleep. So also not eating before you go to bed, I think is really a big deal because it pulls all that energy in, the body pulls all the energy into digesting at that time. So if I could say anything about sleep, is to practice what you've heard. Turn the lights on dim, turn your TV off, turn your camera off, maybe meditate before you go to bed or journal. Find ways to sort of calm yourself before going to bed. These are really powerful, and I hope that you'll practice them. So I want to add one more tip to sleep. What we do during the day also affects our quality of sleep at night. I probably incorrect in saying that you've heard this tip before, but do you do it? And that is taking time throughout your day to put the to-do list down and just go sit and deep breathe and just let yourself be really quiet. Close your eyes. Try not to be taking in the outside world, and do this several times a day, and you will notice a difference in your sleep. Practice, practice, practice. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is our mental, emotional, and our spiritual health. So in a world, I'm sorry I keep looking at my watch, but my phone, which I'm recording this on, keeps turning off. I think I'm filling up my phone with videos. I don't know if anybody else does that, but anyway, just want to put that out there so you don't think I'm trying to get somewhere. So in a world where we feel overwhelmed, full of information, chaos, and of course in our political environment today, in our world environment today, it can feel like just another huge task to take care of our emotional health. But here's the thing, our emotional health is not about trying to be perfect. In fact, far from it. but it is about having compassion and honesty with ourselves, like real, true honesty with ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to give you some tips that I think are profoundly positive for this time in our life. And the first one is start by getting excuse me, let me try that again. Start by getting curious. Get curious why you feel an emotion. Get curious why you feel triggered by someone. This is huge. This is huge. And bring awareness to that and celebrate your awareness. Number two is name what's real. When you are feeling something, name it. Let it be real. It does not mean that you need to act on it. And it especially doesn't mean because that emotion is real that the rest of your life is falling apart. We can so commonly decide that because we're struggling with a particular relationship in our life, that the whole rest of our world is falling apart. And it simply is not true. That is a lie. It is a story you tell yourself. The next one is to get into spaces and surround yourself with people that you can trust and be real with. So what I mean by spaces, maybe that is joining my Facebook group called Life in the Middle, where we just get real. We say the things and then we digest them and we come to new conclusions, new awarenesses that actually feel better and don't leave us empty. So finally, in closing or ending this video, if you're experiencing anxiety, depression, numbness, brain fog, please know that you are not alone. This time in our life is a profound threshold, not to be undervalued, but to step into greater value. While it can feel disorienting at times, if you pause and listen to the real message, it will guide you to the place that you're meant to go to next. This season in our life asks for gentleness, curiosity, even community. You don't have to push through it. You don't have to do more because there is power. There's absolute power in less, in pausing, in noticing, in awareness, and in consciousness. So I hope you enjoyed this video today, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. So if you watched to the end of this video, then you just heard a glimpse or a small reflection of the deeper work I do at my retreats. The themes I've touched on here, for example, identity shifts, the emotional weight we carry, the quiet, unspoken longing for something more, are at the heart of my retreats. We don't just talk about the powerful transition, we move through it together with intention, with support, and with community, and most of all, the intimate experience of the location in which the retreats take place. Location, location, location matters so much when you are in a place where you're opening your heart, where you're stepping into your own vulnerability and into your own truth. Stepping into our truth is a powerful experience, and feeling supported while we do that, vulnerable stepping stone, is, I think, just paramount in actually the transformation sort of sticking, if you will. So one of the reasons I am sharing this is I have created a retreat waitlist. I have women who return to my retreats over and over again. And those that get on the retreat list for the next retreat, which I am in the process of creating right now, and I am just giddy about the couple locations that I have picked. If you get on the wait list, you get early bird access. You get to pick your sleeping arrangements first. You get some input as to the location. So what I do is typically pick 3 locations, and I ask those of you on the wait list, where would you like to go? What feels like the most intimate or exciting location for you to do a retreat like this? And what I mean by like this is the theme of the retreat. Is this the retreat you want to go on for your transformation? The other thing I really want to point out is my retreats aren't all about learning, aren't all about information. They're mostly about the experience. I think in our society today, we are just overwhelmed with information, which keeps us separated from this deeper yearning, this deeper longing, this deeper knowing that we so often bury instead of allow to come to the surface. So yes, we talk, we get in groups and we talk, and we do various other things to help support the experience. But it's also about having lots of downtime and enjoying the food. So if you join the retreat waitlist, which will be linked in the description below, you'll also get an extra bonus to take part in a 3-part video series that I will share with you. And this is on the 3 things that most women in midlife regret not doing sooner. So it's a video series that you'll watch, and then I will give you like small steps to take or journaling that you can take part in to help you start to take the action that you maybe have been putting off for years. So thanks for staying to the end, and I hope to see you on the retreat waitlist. We'll see you next time. Bye for now. Mwah.